Dos semanas. 2 weeks is what separates us from the start of the fluke season. And at this point, I'm sure you all have stocked up on jigs, gulp, and tackle, and have done all the maintenance you need on your reels. If you haven't, do it now. The weather being the way it is, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a sluggish start to the season, but who knows? The weather can change quickly in a hurry and warm things up. I'm certainly excited to get into the bite and celebrate my catches with my fellow shorebound fluke anglers. And as a quick PSA, I will be holding my in-person fluke lessons this year, so for those inquiring, please visit and message me on my Instagram below. And as part of commemorating the sport, I am putting together this series called Chronicles of a Fluke Angler. For those that missed the last couple of weeks, the purpose of this series is to document and celebrate my shorebound fluke anglers and their journey through this sport. What got them into shore fluking? How did they start off fishing for them? And how did it evolve to what it is today? This week I'm featuring my friend Johnny. I had a chance to fish with him last year. He's one of the OGs when it comes to sharing his fish tales on YouTube. He definitely has a passion when it comes to saltwater fishing, where he's essentially fishing year-round. But we're going to focus on his shorebound fluking journey, from his early days of fishing a chicken rig to now the single jig method, and also cover a specific summer full-on assault on fluke from the suds. Let's cut to the interview. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes, it's like what, 2 weeks into the new year.
Yeah, 2 weeks in, and I'm jonesing for some fluke, man. It's
Yeah,
it's been rough.
I believe it. I believe it. You got a few more months.
But down in Philly, like you guys been getting more snow than up in New York.
Yeah,
That's a crazy thing, you
exactly.
know.
So
Just
we
to
got
add more insult to injury.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit from where you're from and like your first foray into fishing.
Hmm. Well, so I grew up in Philly, born and raised in Philly, South Philadelphia to be more specific. I think the whole journey of me starting to fish probably had to been maybe when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Now I was young, so I don't know a lot. I didn't know anything. I learned a lot of this from my father, my dad. My dad would always take my whole family out to go fishing. My mom, my two brothers, my two sisters. It was a whole family outing every Sunday afternoon. Sunday was the day where we were all free. We were before school started on a Monday, or when we are all at home. When I was younger, I didn't go far, so I lived 5 minutes from the Delaware River, and we would just hop into the car with all of us, bring out 5 rods, and then go out to the Delaware River. And the first fish I actually caught was a channel catfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, ironically enough, I do a lot of saltwater fishing, but a channel catfish was my very first fish. But it wasn't until like I turned around like 9 or 10 years old, I would start to follow my father fishing in saltwater. My dad was not really good. He wasn't a really good angler, but he was good at certain species like
Mhm.
blackfish, the towel, striped bass, bluefish, and weakfish. But we didn't know anything about fluke. Like fluke was up in the air. We're like, well, we've seen people catching them. We've caught some small ones by accident while striped bass fishing, but we didn't really target them. So that at that time, fluke fishing was basically non-existent. I didn't know anything,
Yeah.
knew nothing about it, zero information, zero knowledge or anything like that. I think over the years, when I wanted to learn more about fishing on my own, I actually went to my local library after school, get on the computer, and look up the online fishing forums because back then there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was
Yeah.
that YouTube stuff
None of
back
it.
then, you know.
Yeah.
So the only information that could get was from online fishing forums. And they were very helpful back then because it was everyone's experience. Everyone was like very knowledgeable, willing to help. They were good at, I won't say good, they were open to share some spots 20 years ago, but now it's just very tight-lipped community. So I get it. More people, more fishing pressure. But back then, it was basically online fishing forums for me. Striker Online was one of the biggest ones I used. And then over the years, I just watched a lot of YouTube, Facebook posts, Facebook like it was basically from there on all my knowledge of people's experience on social media now. So it's basically a huge evolution in the intel that you get. 20 years ago, it was very hard. I had to go to the library, because I didn't have internet to go
Yeah.
online and find
Yeah.
information.
You had to do some work to get some
Yeah,
resources, right? Yeah. You
yeah.
gotta
Now you just
learn.
go on your phone, you can find it right away. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a basic background for me in terms of fluking. I didn't know anything at that time, and I over the years I learned slowly but surely, but I
Hmm.
didn't know everything. So we'll keep it at that.
Like transitioning to fluking, like what got you into fluking? And do you remember that first trip you took out on the suds or on a boat?
I think the transition from I want to go fluking now. Like I want to learn how to fluke. How to deal with me convincing my dad, hey, we need to catch flounder. We need to catch flounder in the summer because everyone catches them heat of the summer. There's no striped bass, there's no bluefish, there's no blackfish. So we got to do something in the summer, and
Yeah.
that's where the summer flounder fluke came in. I did a lot of that information digging. It was through online forums. There was different types of forums. There were charter boat forums, there were party boat forums, or personal forums, and like I dug into that because like not only there's just so much information where you may learn something that people on a boat will use for fluke, but you can also use boat strategies, boat techniques off the beach as well, like on the inlet jetty. I had to learn all of this in general as a whole. Like I can't just situate myself, hey, I need to learn strictly for surf fishing, strictly for fishing off the rock. You know, I have to gather all this information and basically tell my dad, hey, we need to go out with this stuff. We need to go out with this bait. We need to go out with this line, reel. We need to go out with these types of hooks as well. And then it all came from there.
Yeah.
Now, I think the very first fluking trip, official fluke trip, was probably when I was like 13, 14 years old. This is a while ago. It was me and my dad were fishing in a very famous inlet jetty
Hmm.
in New
Yep.
Jersey. This particular inlet had a lot of current, like this, and like all inlets, you're always going to have a flow, ebb, tide, current, and depending on the moon phases, it may be very strong, it may be very weak. There may not be
Hmm.
any slack times. It just may be everywhere. What we tried to interpret in terms of fishing off the inlet was like, hey, we have current, we should probably throw up current and just walk our baits down the rock.
Hmm.
And that was very surprising how we did that because not only did we catch fluke, we actually I remember we caught like two nice flukes doing that. Mind you, we didn't use gulp because we didn't know gulp at that time. So we used a lot of cut bait. We used cut mackerel, cut squid, and sometimes we use live killies because that's what
Hmm.
people were catching them on. So
Hmm.
basically, we threw up current, let the current drift our lines down, 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 and then when we feel a hit, we just catch them like that. And we caught two nice keepers that very first trip, 21 inches and then 19 and a half. I think,
Not bad for a first trip.
yeah, not bad for a
Yeah.
first trip. And I was like,
Yeah.
hey, Dad, this is actually fun. We should try to do this again. And yeah, it came from there on. We did fluking once in a while, and we caught fish, and it was all dependent if we caught any keepers or not. So some days we didn't catch any, some days we caught one, some days we caught two, three, and so forth. Over the years, I learned golf, learned the existence of golf. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I started using swimming mullets and golf grubs. The rig at that time was like a T swivel, a three-way swivel. You have your weight on a clip, and then you have like 12 to 18 inches of leader with
Hmm.
a hook snell to it. And then we just put a gulp on there. And that was basically what I was using for what the majority of the years after my first trip with my dad when we caught them. So it was a very very slow process, but we did catch fish the way we learned, and we kind of adapted to moving up to the gulp product.
Right, right. And it didn't look like the dropper rig that I see sometimes on your channel because you had a YouTube channel back in the day. You were
Yeah,
one of the first, right? The OGs, you know?
exactly.
And you were using I think like either a chicken rig or a dropper rig, but the rig you described sounds more like a tandem rig or like a Carolina rig or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, how did it evolve? Did it evolve then to the dropper rig
Yes,
a little
it,
after?
it
Okay.
definitely did. I think after a few years using that, I was like, hey, I watched someone use one of those dropper loop rigs, and
Hmm.
at that time, a lot of people were starting to use them, and
Hmm.
they'll basically use two dropper loops with a weight on the bottom. I call that a chicken rig. If anyone wants to know, the chicken rig is a proper term for that two hook dropper loop rig. And when I started doing it, that was basically when I started making videos. And I've seen a lot more success in that rig than when I was using the first few years with that long leader with
Yeah, the tandem
the
rig, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And my hookup ratio was a lot better.
Hmm.
Less gut hooking these fish because I believe like these fish once you feel them, you can feel them a lot better on these rigs. So when you feel them, I tend to swing at everything, and I don't really gut hook a lot of fluke nowadays, especially with that dropper loop. So I've been using that for quite some time before learning the single jig technique. Even before like the whole single jig thing, I didn't know anything about people are using like the spro bucktails, like 1 ounce spros, 3/4 ounce spros with a Gulp swimming mullet. And I tried it, especially with a teaser on top, like 8 inches above the bucktail. I tried it, but I
Hmm.
kept dragging a lot of like sand, a lot of weeds and stuff like that. And I caught a
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
crabs too. So like I kind
Yeah.
of didn't really like that. So I ended up just focusing using like the dropper loop rig, especially in my videos because that was what it was using. That was what was working for me at that time, 5 years ago or something like that when I was
Not too
using.
long ago, people,
Yeah, not too long.
like me, myself, I was using a dropper rig as well. Like that was everybody used it.
Yep.
Uh, how did it eventually evolve to what it is today? Because I think you transition mostly over to the single jig
Yes.
now. But I know you tell me it depends on the conditions. Sometimes you might
Yep.
switch back and forth, but like tell me about that evolution to that single jig from that dropper rig. Was there another step in between or
No, there was no step in between. I
yeah.
think I went straight from dropper loop, two hooks, bait holder hooks, 2 ounce weight to basically the single jig. Like there was
Hmm.
nothing in between. I think what was it? It was probably 3 years ago, 2021. I think that was the year that I fully
I was
went.
gonna ask you about that
Yeah,
2021 year too.
yep.
Yeah.
That's the year when I fully went. Hey, I watched this video of the single jig technique, the finesse and stuff, the jerk shad stuff. Like, I gotta try it this year. I have to do it in 2021. This summer, I'm going to do it. Watching your videos, watching Roger's video as well, cooking and fishing. I kind of tried to mimic everything you guys did. I watched every single video from like start to finish. I had to pause sometimes, or I had to keep replaying a certain clip, maybe a 10, 15-second clip, see like what you guys are doing. Like,
Hmm.
was it the technique of like switching it and pausing, and how are you working a single jig in like this certain body of water, this certain area. That year, early that year, when opening season, like in May, I tried it.
Hmm.
I went to a fairly popular spot, did the whole single jig. I went out there, had a 1/4 ounce jig head, 3/8 ounce jig head, half ounce. I had all different types on me. 5 inch jerk shad, had 6 inch jerk shad, and by God, I don't know what I was doing. I was missing so many fish. I was losing so many fish. I was not catching anything like substantially. Like all the fish I caught that day was just like not even bigger than 16 inches. So like I knew like I gotta watch these videos again. And so it was basically the start of a learning curve.
So 2021 sort of was your deep dive into the single jig. It seemed like you invested a lot of time, right, that summer because when I scroll through your Instagram account, there seems to be like a rhythm to every year where you kind of start off with like black drum and then
Yeah,
sheep's head,
exactly.
bluefish, and then 2021 was like a blip because all of a sudden I just see fluke after fluke after fluke. Despite like you diving into it that year. I think you had a lot of success because I remember you caught like a 24-inch fluke. You had multiple limits. I seen you with the fluke over at a famous tackle store on the meat hooks.
Yep.
You got the meat hook pictures. Like was there an aha moment that summer where you're like, okay, I got it.
Our good friend Long Lee, that same year, he invited me out. He flew this particular body of water. It hit pretty hard in the early spring. For me, like to watch him do it, kind of helped me out a little bit as well because I was there. I was standing next to him. He learned this from you. He learned
Huh.
the single jigging from you. He fished with you before, like
Yeah,
in
he did a
person.
couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He
So
made that long drive. Yeah, he
exactly.
was fully committed that year, I
Exactly.
remember.
So
Yeah.
I watched him, like I
Hmm.
watched him fish for it. The way he was catching fish left and right, like with the single jig. Like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, you just dude, copy me. Just look at what I'm doing. Like this is exactly what they were doing in their videos. This is what Shore Money was doing on his videos. This is what Roger was doing in his videos as well. This is how you do it. Took a little bit of adjustments, but I kind of realized like not only did I need to watch the videos, I also needed to watch someone that actually was catching them using that technique. After a little bit of tweaking and trying to adjust to why I'm not catching them, I realized Long Lee was using as light as he can. Like he said,
Hmm.
the lighter the jig that you can use, the better. Like the better you can finesse these big flukes, especially the larger ones, like 20 inches, 20 plus inches. And I didn't believe him at that time. I was like, man, I feel at that time I was like, man, if they're gonna see it, they're probably gonna eat it, which is true. But I think for a bigger one, you might have to do a little bit more just to get them to, to get them to bite. So
Hmm.
yeah, so we caught a lot of fish that day. It was on his boat, and I think after that day, I was like, I think I got this. I
Hmm.
feel like if I can do it from his boat, I can do it from shore.
And that on that boat, by the way, were you fishing like pretty shallow waters? So that's why
Exactly.
you felt confident that you can
Yeah.
translate that to the surf.
Exactly. So it wasn't even more than 10 feet. Like
Yeah.
most of the waters we fished was about 6 to 8. Deepest is definitely 10. So it was very easy for me to like understand, hey, since we're fishing shallow, this may work on the beach. It might be a little different because I'm going to be on foot. There's no current. We're not on a boat. There's no current. So like, said to myself, hey, I gotta try this next time off the beach. I have to do this. And fortunately, that year, for some reason, the fluke fishing was very good in a
Hmm.
certain area in New
Certain
Jersey.
beaches. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it was a very interesting year.
Hmm.
I was looking at all these reports and everything. Everyone was catching fish off this beach. Everyone was catching big fish, big fluke off the beach, and like I've never seen anything like this before. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna chase it. I'm gonna chase this report. I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna go out here the next best possible day I can go, like when the conditions are right. Flat conditions, got a west wind, northwest wind. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I stumbled on a day where I get out there, everything was like perfect, everything perfect for single jigging. So I went out there, I just couldn't believe it. I was catching them left and right every single cast, and I'll go over like the technique, like when I walk up to the beach. So like every beach is different structures. A lot of beach has a lot of soft structures. Some beach does not have any structure, and as a striped bass fisherman, I want to look for deeper waters. I want to look for holes, different types of troughs. I want to find a lot of changes in the depth, like in between sandbars, maybe a little bit of a rip current into a bar. And I was looking exactly for those spots off the beach. And that day took a little bit of finding an area, and I literally had fish every single cast for like an hour.
That's awesome.
I could not believe it. And that was the day I caught a 24-inch fluke, about 5 pounds off the beach.
Was that your PB from shore?
That was my best one, my personal best from the beach.
Yeah, you had a generous measure too. I thought it was a little over 24 because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tail kind of stretched beyond it,
It's a
but
little bit,
we'll
yeah.
call it a 24 plus,
We'll
you know?
do 24 plus. But
24
that
plus.
fish, I, I,
Yeah.
I caught bigger ones off the boats and everything, but that
Yeah.
fish fought way bigger than any other fish I've caught. Like this
Hmm.
thing took like insane runs, and I don't know if it was because it was fat. I don't know if it was because of I was on the beach. There was a lot of undertow current. There was a lot of wash pushing it in and out. But that fish fought way harder than any other fluke I've caught on a boat, on the beach, on the inlet, and I was kind of pretty proud that day. So I marked that
Yeah.
day in the book from me.
Yeah, those fluke in the surf tend to be a little bit feistier, and they don't have a lot of room to swim away. They have to go horizontal to fight against you. Sometimes it's like you're battling like a bonefish in the surf or
Yeah.
something like that. That's so cool, man. Like that year you were catching a fluke out front in the surf. You mentioned like sandbars. Was it also kind of like a learning curve for you to kind of understand and read beaches? Or have you already kind of grown accustomed to that because you were already fishing for like drum and striper, so you know what to look for?
So if you compare striped bass to a fluke, a lot of people will tell you, hey, you need to cover ground, right? You need to walk around. You need to find different areas. You need to find holes into the beach because one, you need to find them. Two, maybe they're not there, but they might be there later in different stages of the tide. So I kind of got a little bit of that idea, general idea in my head, especially that year, but it still wasn't like I went out there and I caught fish left and right. It literally took me a little bit. I had to walk a little fair amount off the beach, try to find holes because not every single hole is going to have a fish or have many fish into them. Every day is going to be different. One day they're here, one day they're not here. I had an idea, but then again, that idea kept going away every single day I went because, like, hey, I have to reset. I have to like figure out, hey, they were here yesterday, but maybe they moved here because I, the tide's 1 hour different, so or 2 hours different. Maybe they moved
Hmm.
here um, before they moved back to where I was at the day before. So it wasn't just off the bat fishing. Maybe I'll catch a few here and there, and especially like a few trips after I caught that 24 incher, that first trip out. I did catch a limit one time, and it was funny because that was literally like the hole to the left of where I caught that 24 inch trip before. What I learned from striped bass fishing off the beach, drum fishing off on the beach, I try to keep that as well in my mind, especially in fluking, because there are times where I will chunk off the beach striped bass with a piece of clam and I'll catch a fluke out of nowhere. I was like, where did this thing come from?
Yeah.
And it's a nice one too. So I have to like tell myself, hey, if striped bass are here, then fluke could be here as well. You just don't know it.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's really good insight. It's not about like covering a lot of miles, right? Or winning a marathon. It's about making those adjustments when you know that, an area or hole has dried up, right? And maybe fluke, they may have like some micro movements and some more macro level movements.
Yeah.
But if you're fishing the next day or even just a few days from your prior trip, like most often, like fluke, the biomass of fluke or whatever may not shift as much.
Yeah.
But then understanding that you have to make those movements, those little changes up and down the shore is the keys to success.
I agree.
And I was definitely fortunate enough to fish with you for the first time this year with Long.
Yeah.
And you definitely did work on that beach and you outfished me. You caught a couple keepers. We
Yeah, I
weren't like
didn't.
fishing. Yeah, no, it was great to see because I learned a lot too because we were fishing in practically the same waters, right?
Yeah.
Covering up and down the beach, finding hard structure and soft structure, but you seem to be very deliberate in like what you're looking for. And I remember Long and I, we were trying to cover further down the beach, but you refused to move at that point
Yeah.
because you knew like there was something about the spot that you were standing on that
Right.
was catching a lot of fluke, which is interesting. As when you set foot on a beach, what are you looking for when you're fishing like a new beach or something like that? Are you looking for soft structure or hard structure or just anything, any clues that can help you locate the fluke?
That really depends because like sometimes I'll get out there like dead low tide. Sometimes I get out there like at the peak of the tide. Let's say I go out nice summer day. I go out here to this beach that I don't know, never heard of, never been to. I think the first thing I when I come over to Dune, I want to find like where is all the waves crashing? Where's all the white water at? Where's the where's all
Mhm.
the darker patches of water, and how much water do I think is deep enough to hold fluke? I believe you don't really need that much water for fluke to even be there because I've seen people catch fluke in a foot of water, 2 feet of water, and they're like standing right there and they're catching them. But to me, I want to be able to find, hey, I think this is going to be good. If I fish here and it's incoming tide, dead low, I want to kind of like gauge how much water will come up. So I look at the water line, and most of the
Mhm.
time, you basically can see where the water line stops at high tide, all the way up here. So I have a lot of ground in between. Okay, the water stops here, but I can see that it does go down a little bit deeper, like a bowl. And I try to find those bowls, like the cuts, where like the water doesn't go all the way up to the dune because that it just tells me like, hey, it's just a straight slope up off the beach. I try to find areas where the water doesn't go all the way up to the dune, but I can tell like there's like a little bit of a more like a cliff, like a more of a deeper edge where
Mhm.
at high tide, this piece of water, this hole could be 4 feet deep
I
rather
see.
compared to where the tide goes all the way up to the dune and it could be only like 2 feet deep. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
what I
that's
try
really
to
cool.
find.
Yeah, little
Yeah,
clues like that between high tide and low tide and utilizing that, that's really cool. Just a couple more questions, right? I know we're running almost up in
yeah.
time. First question is for people who are new to the sport and maybe just getting their feet wet with the single jig, do you have any tips for them? I know you mentioned earlier the eye-opening experience was fishing with long and understanding that you have to go light and maybe trusting to go light. Do you think that's a big piece of information and key to success, or is there something else that you may recommend to folks who are starting out new?
I think the best thing I can think of right now is like you have to be prepared of the changing conditions. You have to be able to adjust to because 1 hour, oh, it's nice and calm, and then all of a sudden the wind
Hmm.
picks up, a south wind picks up, it gets rough. You need to be able to adapt to adjust to the conditions. You may have to go a little heavier. You may not be able to use a quarter ounce. You may have to use a 3/8. You might have to use a quarter. You might not be able to use that at all. So I
Right.
think the most important thing is like, hey, you have to be ready. It's probably not going to be flat all day. It's probably not going to be calm all day. And I think the key to success is like being able to have different, being able to fish in different conditions when it's allowed. The lighter you can go, the better. But there's some days a 3 ounce is the lightest you can go. You can't use a quarter ounce or it just flies all over the place. So like you really have to be able to know what's going to change, how it's going to change, and be able to be prepared to fish a different way than you came out to initially.
Yeah, be willing to adapt, right? Using different ways, using different approaches to cut through the conditions and fish through tougher conditions. That's a great
Exactly.
way. Not get discouraged because maybe some people who are new, they just they see maybe the YouTube videos or how others are doing it around them, and they're just mimicking what they're doing. But it's
Right.
more than just that, right? Like you
Right.
have to change your cadence. And I always feel like everybody has their own signature technique, right? There's no one single technique. Like the day I fished with you, you fished the single jig very differently than I do and differently than how Long does, you know?
Exactly.
And it's like developing that feel
Yep.
and adaptability. That's awesome, man. And do you have any goals? Like final, like do you have any goals this year? You have that 24-inch fluke or 24 plus, right? Is that something you want to crack this year, or is there something
Yeah.
else on a fluke front that you want to accomplish?
Yeah. Definitely want to crack that. I know the past few years I haven't been looking religiously like I did back in 2021. But I really want to get out there, try to get something a little bit bigger. I think I'm trying to get something like 5, 6 pounds off the beach, and I know it's possible because I see a lot
You're
of
gonna
that
get it,
happening.
man.
I see
Yeah,
a lot of that
you're gonna
happening to
get it.
people, and that's probably one of my biggest goals this year is fluke more than what I've been fluking the past 2, 3 years. I'll probably stay away from some of the fishing that I do typically do in the summer and
Hmm.
really straight focus on fluke this year. And it's basically gonna be a fluke, 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 fluke.
Hey, man,
Yeah,
we'll go out a few times, man,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just to keep you motivated, you
Yeah,
know?
no problem. Yeah, I would like that. I would definitely like that.
Nothing better than a midsummer shore mat,
Yeah, yeah,
where
exactly.
you're just like out of the heat. You know, in the summer doldrums, you pull up like a 25 plus 26. I think
Exactly.
it's one of the coolest experiences, man.
No,
Before,
I was
yeah,
just saying, like, I hope I catch some. I hope I catch a big one in front of you. It's like, hey, look, I did it.
I'll be there to document it for sure
Yeah,
and take pictures and stuff like that,
yeah,
man. Dude,
yeah,
I'm thrilled, man. I'm glad we got to talk. It got
yeah.
me a little bit my spirits lifted up during this
No,
cold winter, you know?
no, good to hear
And
that. Good to hear.
I can't wait to go through it, man. And I really appreciate your feedback,
Yeah,
man.
no problem. Well, yeah, we got a lot in store this year. I know we only went once last year, but this
We'll
year
go
we gotta go
more.
more. We gotta go more. More
We
than
need
once.
to go more, and we need to go like catch a fluke, bring it to like a Cantonese restaurant so they
Yeah,
can like steam it or like
yeah,
fry it up. Yeah,
yeah.
man, that's
I keep
nothing better
telling,
than that.
I keep telling Long that we should do that. He's like, yeah, we gotta do that, man. We gotta get one. But
Yeah.
we all should get together, do that again. So, like, I know he's dying to go too this year. So like, it'll be a fun time.